For years, Israel and Iran waged a hidden war, a clandestine struggle fought in the shadows, away from the glare of international scrutiny. It was a war fought through proxies, through sophisticated cyber attacks and carefully planned covert strikes, each side probing the other's defenses. They rarely clashed directly, maintaining a delicate balance. Their rivalry simmered beneath the surface, a constant undercurrent of tension, subtly shaping the Middle East's balance of power and influencing geopolitical strategies across the region. The unspoken rules were clear: avoid direct military confrontation at all costs, a principle of military restraint that had held for decades. But in spring 2024, everything changed in a sudden and dramatic shift. Iran launched a direct assault, a bold and unprecedented move, on Israeli territory from its own soil, marking a significant departure from established norms. Israel responded swiftly with a calculated strike inside Iran, signaling a clear message of deterrence. This shattered the old rules of engagement, pushing the region to the brink of all-out war, a dangerous precipice with potentially catastrophic consequences. Suddenly, the world's eyes were fixed on the Middle East, with every nation holding its breath, fearing a wider conflict that could engulf the entire region and beyond. To understand this dangerous escalation, we must trace the complex chain of events that led here, examining each critical decision and misstep. This is the story of how a shadow war, long fought in secret, burst into the open with devastating force, redrawing the map of regional conflict and reshaping the geopolitical landscape. Tonight we break down the timeline, the key actions, and the immense global stakes involved in this crisis. The consequences are still unfolding, and the world watches with bated breath. The initial spark, the event that would dramatically alter the course of regional tensions, ignited on April 1, 2024. On that day, an airstrike of devastating force obliterated Iran's consulate in Damascus, Syria, leaving a scene of destruction and sparking international outrage. This was not simply another attack in a long history of regional conflicts. This strike was different. It directly targeted a diplomatic compound, a sovereign entity under international law, a move considered a significant escalation. The consequences were severe. The strike resulted in the deaths of several high-ranking Iranian military officials, individuals deeply embedded within Iran's security apparatus. Among the casualties was Brigadier General Mohammad Reza Zahedi, a name that resonated deeply within the Iranian military establishment. Zahedi was not just any officer, he was a key Quds Force commander, a pivotal figure in Iran's regional strategy and operations. The message sent by this act was unmistakable and chilling. Israel, through its actions, signaled a clear willingness to escalate the conflict, pushing the boundaries of acceptable engagement. For years, Israel had conducted strikes against Iranian assets and proxies within Syria, a campaign aimed at disrupting Iran's entrenchment in the region. However, this attack was different. Never before had Israel directly targeted a diplomatic mission, nor had it eliminated such a senior and strategically important figure. The Iranian leadership, from the supreme leader to the Revolutionary Guard commanders, was consumed by fury, their rhetoric filled with vows of severe and decisive revenge. As the dust settled in Damascus, the world held its breath, bracing for Iran's inevitable response. It was universally understood that this brazen attack could not and would not go unanswered. The stakes were too high, the message too provocative. Behind closed doors, diplomats scrambled frantically, engaging in shuttle diplomacy and urgent consultations, desperately seeking a way to de-escalate the situation and prevent a wider, more devastating conflict. The Damascus strike, in its audacity and its consequences, marked a clear turning point in the already volatile dynamics of the Middle East. Israel had undeniably crossed a red line, shattering established norms and protocols, and the entire Middle East was now teetering precariously on the edge of a full-blown war. In Tehran, the gears of retaliation were already in motion. Iran's response, carefully calculated and strategically aimed, was now inevitable. The fuse had been lit, and the countdown to a potentially catastrophic escalation had begun. Across the region from the Mediterranean coast to the Persian Gulf, everyone waited with bated breath for the explosion, the moment when simmering tensions would erupt into open conflict. The long-standing shadow war, fought in the shadows through proxies and covert operations, was now poised to break out into the open, threatening to engulf the entire region in flames. Iran's response came swiftly. On April 13, 2024, Iran launched over 300 drones and missiles at Israel, its first direct attack from Iranian soil. The operation, True Promise, aimed to overwhelm Israel's air defenses. Sirens blared, citizens rushed to shelters, and the night sky erupted with interceptors and explosions. Israel's multi-layered defense, aided by the US, UK, France, and Jordan, intercepted 99% of the projectiles. The attack caused minimal damage, but its message was clear: Iran could strike Israel directly. This shattered decades of proxy warfare and set a new precedent. Iran's show of force restored some deterrence after the Damascus strike. The world watched, anxious for Israel's next move. The rules of engagement had changed. The question: how would Israel respond to this unprecedented assault? The region held its breath. The conflict had entered uncharted territory. The world braced itself, holding its breath as it awaited Israel's response. The tension was palpable, a heavy weight hanging in the air as nations considered the potential ramifications of the next move. International leaders, especially the US, urged restraint, emphasizing the critical need for de-escalation and diplomatic solutions. High-level meetings were convened and back-channel communications buzzed with activity as diplomats worked tirelessly to prevent further conflict. All fearing a spiral into a full-blown regional war, a catastrophic scenario that could destabilize the entire Middle East and beyond. The stakes were incredibly high, with the potential for widespread devastation and long-lasting consequences. Behind closed doors, Israel's war cabinet debated, should they launch a massive retaliation, sending a clear message of strength, or opt for a more targeted message, a calculated strike designed to deter further aggression without igniting a larger conflict? The decision weighed heavily on their shoulders. Then, on April 19th, a series of explosions rocked Isfahan, deep inside Iran, a bold and calculated move that sent shockwaves throughout the region. Isfahan, a city housing key military installations and sensitive nuclear sites, making it a strategic target of immense importance. In the immediate aftermath, Iran downplayed the incident, attempting to project an image of strength and resilience. They claimed minimal damage, seeking to minimize the perceived impact of the strike, and asserted that there was no impact whatsoever on their nuclear facilities, a claim that would soon be scrutinized by international observers. But US officials soon confirmed that Israel had in fact struck inside Iran, shattering the illusion of invulnerability. Satellite images later surfaced, showing clear evidence of damage to a critical component of Iran's air defense radar system. The strike by all accounts was precise and limited in scope, effectively demonstrating Israel's reach and its capability to strike deep within Iranian territory. It was a calculated risk, designed to send a message without provoking an all-out war. In the aftermath, Israel maintained official silence, strategically giving Iran an off-ramp, a chance to de-escalate and avoid further conflict without losing face. This carefully calculated move was intended to restore deterrence while simultaneously containing the immediate crisis and preventing it from spiraling out of control. Behind the scenes, both sides subtly signaled that they wanted to avoid a wider conflict, recognizing the devastating consequences that such a scenario would entail. For the moment, the immediate cycle of direct attacks paused, but this fragile calm was only temporary, a brief respite in a long and complex conflict. The world exhaled a collective sigh of relief, but the underlying danger remained, a persistent threat simmering beneath the surface. The Shadow War, a clandestine struggle for power and influence, had become a high-stakes chess match, with each move carefully calculated and fraught with risk. The Israel-Iran exchanges sent shockwaves worldwide. The US played a pivotal role, defending Israel but refusing to join offensive action against Iran. This restraint shaped Israel's measured response. The UK, France, and Germany condemned Iran's attack, supported Israel's defense, and imposed new sanctions on Iran. Regional powers like Saudi Arabia and the UAE were alarmed, fearing spillover. Jordan actively helped intercept Iranian drones, drawing both praise and criticism. The crisis exposed shifting alliances and the region's fragile security. Russia and China called for calm, but blamed Western policies, blocking unified UN action. The world saw not just a regional conflict, but a global power struggle. The Middle East's volatility threatened to draw in major players. Diplomacy raced to prevent further escalation. The stakes had never been higher. The world was on edge. Why did these events unfold? For Israel, striking the Damascus consulate was a bold move to disrupt Iran's regional command and send a warning. No Iranian leader is untouchable. Israel gambled that Iran would stick to proxy responses. But the attack on a diplomatic site forced Iran's hand. Iran's massive drone and missile barrage was about restoring credibility and deterrence, showing strength to its people, allies, and adversaries. Yet Iran carefully avoided mass casualties, telegraphing its intentions and giving Israel time to prepare. The goal: make a statement, not start a war. Both sides wanted to reset the rules without triggering catastrophe. The conflict became a performance of power, with each side testing the other's limits. The old Shadow War was over. Now, every move risked direct confrontation. The strategic calculus had changed. The region's stability hung in the balance. The stakes are existential for both Israel and Iran. For Israel, deterrence and security are paramount. Iran's direct attack challenged Israel's sense of safety and its regional dominance. A full-scale war could devastate Israel, especially if Hezbollah joins in. Israel also risks diplomatic isolation if it overreacts, straining ties with the US and Arab states. The government must balance forceful response with international support. For Iran, regime survival is at risk. War with Israel could destroy its military, economy, and nuclear program. Iran's network of proxies, its main tool for regional influence, could be shattered. The regime faces internal unrest and economic crisis. Escalation could threaten its grip on power. Both sides must calculate every move to avoid disaster. The cost of miscalculation is immense. The future of the region hangs in the balance. April 2024 changed everything. The Shadow War is over, direct confrontation is the new reality. Both sides have crossed red lines, making future escalation more likely. The region is on a knife's edge. One misstep could trigger all-out war. The Middle East's stability and the world's energy supply are at risk. A major conflict could disrupt oil flows, spark a global recession, and draw in world powers. The crisis exposed the fragility of peace built on deterrence and unwritten rules. The international community faces a daunting challenge: prevent the next spark. For millions in the region, the stakes are life and death. The world must find a path away from the brink. The consequences of failure are too great. The story is far from over, the future remains dangerously uncertain.